Hey, Shari.
Hi, Keturah.
Do you remember when we got together and we watched Hidden Figures together?
Yes, that was such a good movie.
It was a good movie. But you know what? It had me thinking, why didn't I know that story before?
Yeah.
I was reminded of how much Black history I still need to learn.
Yeah, same with me. I grew up in Costa Rica, as you know, and the only context in which we ever had history relating to Black people was in the context of slavery. Kids can be very mean-spirited, and whenever we do lessons on slavery, there were always kids that would say things like, ha ha ha, your great-grandfather would have been a slave of my great-grandfather. And for them, it was just this funny thing. And for me, it was just this horrible, scarring experience that they thought that was funny, and somehow it was some kind of joke for them. When for me, it was a devastating reminder of the oppression that my ancestors would have gone through. And that didn't make me feel very proud or happy about my ancestors and the oppression that they went through. So for a long time, I shied away from learning about Black history because it just all felt so depressing, so sad. And then like 12 years ago, I was sitting in staff meeting, and my boss at the time was reading this amazing book, Bury the Chains by Adam Hochschild. And it's a book detailing the abolition of slavery in the British Isles. I went out and bought the book immediately and read through it. It was such a good book. I was inspired, I was uplifted, and all of a sudden, Black history seemed like something I wanted to know so much more about, because this book was so great at describing the struggle, but also the survival and just the thriving of a people that had been oppressed for so long, but like managed to come out on the other side of it.
Back in February, I had the privilege to do a presentation for Black history with my dear friend, Betsy Jabola, and her puppet, Houston.
Oh yeah, Loma Linda Academy?
Yes.
Yeah, my kids are there.
Yes, for the little ones. And we had so much fun. But through the preparation for that presentation, I learned about people I didn't know about before, like Dr. Mae Jemison.
Oh yeah, she's cool.
She is cool. She's a physician, she's an engineer, she's a former astronaut, and she was the first Black woman to travel to space. And Dr. Charles Drew, he was a medical researcher, surgeon. He improved techniques when it came to storing blood. And he even developed large-scale blood banks during World War II. And then even Bessie Coleman, first Black woman to have a pilot's license. She applied to aviation schools across the country, but they wouldn't accept her because of the color of her skin and the fact that she was a woman. So she had to move to France to finally learn how to fly. I think back to preparing for that presentation in February, and it made me so proud of the people who came before me and made it possible for me to enjoy the freedoms and opportunities I have today.
By learning about history, I have a better understanding of why systems are the way they are now, and I've become more aware of things that are going on. I've become more engaged with the ideas of trying to promote justice and promote equality in a way that makes sense. I think I was very on the fringe of that before I started doing my readings and understanding my history better. And it helps me understand why some things hurt. Because sometimes people would say things like, it helps me better process why the things that those kids said to me when I was a child hurt so deeply, because I couldn't totally get it at that age. But the reading and the studying helps me better process the feelings that I feel, and it validates them, and it helps me sort them in a way that's more helpful and constructive.
I love what you said there, because the more I read, the more I understand what's going on. It causes me to want to engage more. I know before, just growing up, I had blinders on, but now that I'm reading more and understanding more, I realize that I need to speak up. And I especially need to speak up for people that I see who are victims of injustice, how that is important. And so now I feel like the blinders that we're on are coming off, and I'm understanding so much more.
I think one of the things that I've learned in this whole process is that we all have to do our own work. And I think in our world, we kind of like easy fixes. We want easy solutions. Give me the 3-step process to not be racist anymore. Give me the 3-step process to achieve justice for everybody. And that's not how it happens. It's been hundreds of years. This has been going on. It's a struggle. It's a marathon. And a lot of people, I mean, there are very few people that run marathons for a reason. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
I had to get out of my comfort zone and buy the books and do the reading and do the work myself. It wasn't going to just magically happen. I'm not by any means there. I'm still reading, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and I love the process. It's hard, and sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's depressing and sad, and other times it's joyful and exciting. But I've decided to just embrace and enjoy the journey of learning and growing and becoming a more aware person of the world around me. We're not going to fully understand the world by just sitting in our rooms and talking to the same people and understanding the same things. So the organization I used to work for, they have a model that's been working for decades. What they do is they get a group of like 12 people together and they dialogue for a whole year together. We get to know each other, we get to connect with each other, we get to really understand each other's histories and stories and how they're enormously diverse. And you know, one of the tools is a timeline. So they'll do, the oldest person in the room puts their date of birth. This is the year I was born, and then it goes to today's date. And then what are the significant events along that timeline for you and your family? Looking at that timeline, you see how very, very different lives are, how very different family dynamics can be, but also in the ways in which they are the same. There's something about personal and collective history that I think is such a great tool for understanding God better, because God is at work in all histories, right? Not just one segment of history, but God is at work in all different cultures, through all different people. And for me, that's very important with my kids, to make sure they understand how God is moving and they understand how other cultures experience life, what they've been through. So when we read books, you know, we read books from the Jewish perspective and the Native American perspective. And I want them to understand all of these different cultures, because I think it just makes the picture of God so much richer and so much better for everyone.
It does. Thank you, Shar. We need to do this again sometime.
We should totally do this again.